The next morning, when Mr. Twit came out with his huge basket to snatch all the birds from the big dead tree, there wasn't a single one on it. They were all sitting on top of the monkey cage. The roly-poly bird was there as well, and Mugglewump and his family were inside the cage, and the whole lot of them were laughing at Mr. Twit. Mr. Twit wasn't going to wait another week for his bird pie supper. He loved bird pie. It was his favourite meal. So that very same day he went after the birds again. This time he smeared all the top bars of the monkey cage with sticky glue, as well as the branches of the big dead tree. "Now I'll get you," he said, "whichever one you sit on." The monkeys crouched inside the cage watching all this, and later on, when the roly-poly bird came swooping in for an evening chat, they shouted out, "Don't land on our cage, roly-poly bird. It's covered in sticky glue. So is the tree." And that evening, as the sun went down and all the birds came in again to roost, the roly-poly bird flew round and round the monkey cage and the big dead tree, singing out his warning. "There's sticky stuff now on the cage and the tree. If you land on either, you'll never get free. So fly away and stay up high, or you'll finish up tomorrow in a hot bird pie." The next morning, when Mr. Twit came out with his huge basket, not a single bird was sitting on either the monkey cage or the big dead tree. They were all perched happily on the roof of Mr. Twit's house. The roly-poly bird was up there as well, and the monkeys were in the cage, and the whole lot of them were hooting with laughter at Mr. Twit. "I'll wipe that silly laugh off your beaks," Mr. Twit screamed at the birds. "I'll get you next time, you filthy feathery frumps. I'll wring your necks, the whole lot of you, and have you bubbling in the pot for bird pie before this day is out."
"How are you going to do that?"
asked Mrs. Twit, who had come outside to see what all the noise was about.
"I won't have you smearing sticky glue all over the roof of our house."
Mr. Twit got very excited. "I've got a great idea," he cried. He didn't bother to keep his voice down because he didn't think the monkeys could understand. "We'll both go into town right away and we'll buy a gun each," he shouted. "How's that?"
"Brilliant,"
cried Mrs. Twit, grinning and showing her long yellow teeth.
"We'll buy those big shotguns that spray out 50 bullets or more with each bang."
"Exactly," said Mr. Twit. "Lock up the house while I go and make sure the monkeys are safely shut away." Mr. Twit went over to the monkey cage. "Attention!" he barked in his fearsome monkey trainer's voice. "Upside down, all of you, and jump to it, one on top of the other. Quick! Get on with it, or you'll feel Mrs. Twit stick across your backsides." Obediently, the poor monkeys stood on their hands and clambered one on top of the other, with Mugglewump at the bottom and the smallest child at the very top. "Now, stay there till we come back," Mr. Twit ordered. "Don't you dare to move, and don't overbalance. When we return in 2 or 3 hours' time, I shall expect to find you all in exactly the same position as you are now. You understand?" With that, Mr. Twit marched away. Mrs. Twit went with him, and the monkeys were left all alone with the birds. As soon as Mr. and Mrs. Twit had disappeared down the road, the monkeys all flipped back onto their feet the right way up.
"Quick, get the key,"
Mugglewump called out to the roly-poly bird, who was still sitting on the roof of the house. "What key?" shouted the roly-poly bird.
"The key to the door of our cage," cried Mugglewump. "It's hanging on a nail in the workshed. That's where he always puts it."
The roly-poly bird flew down and came back with the key in his beak. Mugglewump reached a hand through the bars of the cage and took the key. He put it in the lock and turned it. The door opened, and all 4 monkeys leapt out together.
"We are free," cried the 2 little ones. "Where shall we go, Dad? Where shall we hide?" "Don't get excited," said Mugglewump. "Calm down, everybody. before we escape from this beastly place, we have one very important thing to do. We're going to turn those terrible Twits upside down." "We're going to do what?" they cried. "You must be joking, Dad." "I'm not joking," Mugglewump said. "We're going to turn both Mr. and Mrs. Twit upside down with their legs in the air."
"Don't be ridiculous," the roly-poly bird said. "How can we possibly turn those two maggoty monsters upside down?"
We can," cried Mugglewump. "We are going to make them stand on their heads for hours and hours, perhaps forever. Let them see what it feels like for a change."
"How?" said the roly-poly bird. "Just tell me how." Mugglewump laid his head on one side, and a tiny, twinkling little smile touched the corners of his mouth.
"Now and again," he said, "but not very often, I have a brilliant idea. This is one of them. Follow me, my friends, follow me." He scampered off towards the house, and the three other monkeys and the roly-poly bird went after him. "Buckets and paintbrushes," cried Mugglewump. "That's what we want next. There are plenty in the workshed. Hurry up, everyone. Get a bucket and a paintbrush."
Inside Mr. Twit's workshed there was an enormous barrel of hug-tight sticky glue, the stuff he used for catching birds.
"Fill your buckets," Mugglewump ordered. "We are now going into the big house."
Mrs. Twit had hidden the key to the front door under the mat, and Mugglewump had seen her doing it, so it was very easy for them to get in. In they went, all four monkeys with their buckets of sticky glue. Then came the roly-poly bird flying in after them, with a bucket in his beak and a brush in his claw.
"This is the living room," announced Mugglewump. "The grand and glorious living room where those two fearful, frumptious freaks eat bird pie every week for supper."
"Please don't mention bird pie again," said the roly-poly bird. "It gives me the shudders."
"We mustn't waste time," cried Mugglewump. Hurry up, hurry up. Now the first thing is this. I want everyone to paint sticky glue all over the ceiling. Cover it all. Smear it in every corner." "Over the ceiling?" they cried. "Why the ceiling?" "Never mind why," shouted Mugglewump. "Just do as you're told and don't argue." "But how do we get up there?" they asked. "We can't reach." "Monkeys can reach anywhere," shouted Mugglewump. He was in a frenzy of excitement now, waving his paintbrush and his bucket and leaping about all over the room. Come on, jump on the tables, stand on the chairs, hop on each other's shoulders. Roly-Poly can do it flying. Don't stand there gaping. We have to hurry, don't you understand that? Those terrible Twits will be back any moment, and this time they'll have guns. Get on with it, for heaven's sake, get on with it." And so the great glue painting of the ceiling began. All the other birds who had been sitting on the roof flew in to help, carrying paintbrushes in their claws and beaks. There were buzzards, magpies, rooks, ravens, and many more. Everyone was splashing away like mad, and with so many helpers, the job was soon finished.
for making